In a forgotten Nigerian village, a girl born under a blood moon must choose, seal the gates between life and death, or unleash what lies beyond. This is the tale of Ifunanya, the last gatekeeper. Hello family, enjoy this relaxing moment with AfriTales 38. Remember to subscribe and share your thoughts in the comment section, and generously hit the like button because it means a lot to us. Please relax and enjoy as we dive in the story. The Hook, the vision under the blood moon. The village of Aduk, nestled deep within a forested valley, was no stranger to stories, ghost tales, ancestral curses, and whispering winds. But none carried the weight of Ifunanya, a quiet girl born under an omen, a blood moon. Her mother died in childbirth, and the midwife swore the baby didn't cry but laughed softly, eyes wide open. From a young age, Ifunanya saw things. Shadows that whispered. Dreams that bled into daylight. At 6, she predicted her father's accident to the minute his foot crushed by a falling tree. Villagers began to avoid her. Children whispered, "Which child?" Her grandmother, Mama Ikin, was the only one who still held her close. On the eve of her 14th birthday, a blood moon returned for the first time since her birth. That night, Ifunanya was restless. The old banyan tree in the village square, massive, ancient, and cursed by law, called to her in her dreams. She awoke to the sensation of wet soil on her feet, though she hadn't left her room. Unable to resist, she stepped out into the night, drawn by a sound only she could hear, a child's giggle mixed with a woman's cry. As she reached the banyan tree, the moon bathed everything in crimson light. Her shadow twisted, stretching like a crooked creature, twitching unnaturally. She felt a chill like fingers trailing her spine. Suddenly, she saw herself, standing beneath the tree, eyes rolled back, whispering in a tongue unknown to her. Blood began dripping from her ears in the vision. Then she snapped back. The tree stood silent. But beneath it, half buried in the roots, she saw something poking out, a bone-white hand, small, childlike. Screams echoed in her head. The next morning, the village awoke to find her lying unconscious at the tree's base. And beside her, a tiny, skeletal body, buried shallow beneath the roots. No one had known it was there. The elders gathered, fearful. They whispered about the cursed tree, the girl born under the red moon, and the fact that her dreams had uncovered truth, terrible, buried truth. From that day, Ifunanya's visions intensified. But something else had awoken with them, something that began watching her through mirrors, whispering through reflections. The gift or the curse, echoes that never fade. Ifunanya's return from the blood moon night sent ripples across Aduk. She became a living legend, both feared and revered. While the village held ceremonies to purify the banyan tree, many whispered that Ifunanya had disturbed something ancient, and it had followed her home. She began hearing voices, not just from the wind, but from people before they spoke. Her senses sharpened. When the school headmaster fell ill, she'd known days before he collapsed. She sketched a vision, the man's chest glowing red, like burning coal. Doctors later diagnosed a failing heart. Word spread beyond Aduk. People from other villages began to come, some with missing children, others with lost items or dreams they couldn't explain. Ifunanya became a seer. But each vision drained her. She'd often wake with bloodied noses or bruises in strange shapes on her arms. Her grandmother, Mama Ikin, feared for her. "Child, this gift, it is not only light. Some parts of the spirit world are not meant for your eyes." One night, Ifunanya had a dream unlike any before. She stood in a flooded hut, ankle deep in water. A woman with a veil sat rocking a bundle. A baby. But when Ifunanya looked closely, the bundle was empty, just bones wrapped in old cloth. The woman looked up, face still hidden. "You've opened the gate," she whispered. "Now something must pass through." Ifunanya woke screaming, hands soaked in river water. But she hadn't left her bed. The next day, a child drowned in the river near the village. The villagers began to connect the dots. That evening, Mama Ikin told her a secret: Ifunanya's mother had been like her. She, too, had visions. She had predicted her own death in childbirth and had asked the midwife to burn her body at once. The midwife hadn't listened. Your mother warned that if her body touched the earth, the curse would not end with her. And now, Ifunanya was the vessel. From that moment, Ifunanya started questioning everything. Was this power truly a gift, or a curse inherited through blood? Each vision was becoming darker, more chaotic. She saw not just the near future, but spirits of the past, unfinished business, and shadowy watchers who lingered by graves. That night, she sat by the banyan tree again, eyes closed, whispering to the wind. "Tell me what you want." And from behind the tree, a voice answered, not a whisper, but a guttural sound that scraped the air. "We want the door open." Ifunanya turned. There was no one there. But a line of ash had appeared around the base of the tree, like a circle drawn in a forgotten language. Ifunanya's powers grow. She predicts illness, sees omens, and becomes a village seer. Her visions now include symbolic and terrifying dreamscapes. She learns her mother had similar powers and warned of a curse. The powers are not only about foretelling the future, but also awaken forces from the past. The mirror that lied, reflections that remember. After the night by the banyan tree, Ifunanya noticed mirrors began acting strangely. At first, it was small. Her reflection lingered a second too long after she turned away. Then it started smiling when she wasn't. Eventually, it began to speak. Not with lips but with words written in fog, even when the glass was cold. "They are watching," it spelled one morning. She smashed the mirror in fear, but its shards scattered into pattern symbols she had seen in dreams. She sketched them in her notebook, then hid the pieces under her mattress. Yet at night, she heard whispering from the floor. "Find the second gate." Ifunanya told Mama Ikin, who grew pale. There were two gates. One under the banyan, and the other, she said, trembling, lies in the well behind the chapel ruins. No one had touched the chapel in decades. It had burned down before Ifunanya was born. The well was now overgrown and silent. It was once used to bless newborns. Then one day, a baby was lowered for blessing and never came back up. Only its shore, soaked and shredded, returned. Ifunanya, despite warnings, crept to the ruins at dusk. She stood before the ancient well, now choked with vines and moss. As she peered in, her breath caught a single eye blinked back at her, deep below. She stumbled back. But from the stones around the well came a slow, familiar whisper. "You are the gatekeeper now." Suddenly, her body went cold. Her ears filled with 1,000 voices crying out at once, each one begging, screaming, or cursing. Visions slammed into her mind, drowned children, burning houses, women with bleeding eyes. When she woke, she was lying inside her own house, but the soles of her feet were wet again and covered in ash. Mama Ikin now believed the truth. The gates weren't metaphorical. They were spiritual passageways, points where the barrier between the living and dead was thin. Her mother had closed one when she died, but the banyan tree had become weak. Now, the mirror realm, the well, and her dreams were all bleeding together. Days later, things escalated. Children in the village began sleepwalking, murmuring in tongues they didn't know. One girl drew the same symbols Ifunanya had seen in her mirror shards. Chickens were found dead with no wounds, their eyes wide and glassy. A pastor from a neighboring village came to pray over the well. During the ceremony, Ifunanya saw a second version of the pastor, watching from the trailing tall, pale, eyes black as ink. She screamed, but no one else saw him. That night, in her small mirror shard, the fog wrote, "He has come through." Ifunanya realized something had escaped from the second gate. And now, it was wearing a face. The price of seeing the night the moon stood still. The village of Aduk no longer slept peacefully. Doors were barred. Windows were painted with chalk signs. Chickens no longer crowed at dawn, they hid in corners, trembling. Ifunanya had become the eye of a storm, and everyone could feel it. Her grandmother prepared a ritual, an old one, forbidden for decades, the unbinding rite, once used to sever psychic connections. It required blood, fire, and truth. Ifunanya hesitated, because she feared the truth more than the visions. But it was already too late. That night, under a pale, unmoving moon, a moon that should have shifted but didn't, Ifunanya dreamed she was walking a hallway of mirrors. Each mirror held a version of herself, one crying, one bleeding, one laughing manically, one completely empty-eyed. At the end of the corridor stood a boy with no mouth. He reached out, and a voice filled her mind. You are not the only seer. You are only the open one. Ifunanya awoke screaming. Her nose bled. And on her wall, handprints in ash covered her sleeping mat, tiny ones, as though children had tried to pull her away. That same day, a villager went missing, an old man who'd insulted her days earlier. When they searched his hut, they found scratches from inside his mirror. Not the wall, not the floor, the inside of the mirror glass. Mama Ikin confessed the final piece of truth: Ifunanya's powers had no off switch. They were never meant to stop. But the curse came with a bargain price. Each time Ifunanya saw too much, something from the other side saw her back. And if it found her, it could replace her. That was the goal all along, not to haunt her, but to cross over using her as the host. They decided to complete the unbinding rite. At midnight, in a clearing near the banyan tree, Ifunanya stood barefoot, surrounded by salt and burning herbs. Mama Ikin chanted, cutting her palm and dripping blood onto a clay bowl. Ifunanya began to convulse, her eyes turning white. Suddenly the moon above flickered, like a dying lantern. The trees bent inward, groaning. From the shadows, something stepped forward, not walked, but flowed. It wore Ifunanya's face, but older, corrupted. The spirit raised one hand. All the fires around them died at once. Mama Ikin screamed for Ifunanya to break the rite to close her eyes. But Ifunanya didn't. Instead, she opened them wider. And in that moment, she saw everything. Every child lost to the gates. Every cursed dreamer who came before her. The original seer, a girl named Adebi, burned alive centuries ago for seeing a war before it came. And most terrifying, the final vision, herself, alone in a black space, whispering. To unsee, you must become unseen. Ifunanya fainted. When she awoke, she was in her room, the fires outside now burning bright. Mama Ikin was gone. In her place, a note, smeared in ash, with just 3 words. I took her. And Ifunanya knew the spirit had not crossed over completely, not yet. But it had made its first trade. The gate must choose, the final scene. The loss of Mama Ikin shattered what little safety Ifunanya had left. Her grandmother was more than family, she was her anchor to the world, to sanity. Now she was gone, traded like a coin across realms. The entity had made its first true move. And Ifunanya could feel the shift. It wasn't just in her head anymore. The air in Aduk had changed. Birds no longer sang. The trees bent unnaturally toward the village, leaning in as if listening. Shadows moved without light. Children cried in their sleep, dreaming of burning mirrors and whispering water. The villagers no longer whispered her name, they avoided it entirely. Ifunanya now walked with a ghostly presence behind her. Every mirror she passed showed glimpses of Mama Ikin's eyes, pleading, wide, afraid. She began to wonder, had her grandmother truly died? Or was she trapped, suspended between realms, like a soul caught in a broken radio signal? Then came the whispers. Clear now. Persistent. You are the last gate. Ifunanya began bleeding from her ears during dreams. Her fingers twitched in ritual patterns she had never been taught. Her body was preparing, against her will, to host something ancient and terrible. She finally went to the elder's hut, a sacred place no one visited unless the village was dying. Inside, she demanded answers. Old Elder Nokaik, near blind and over 90, told her the original story. Long ago, before Aduk was Aduk, the land was home to gatekeeper seers who could balance the boundary between the living and the dead. But one of them, Adebi, had tried to seal both gates permanently. The spirits retaliated by binding her soul into the very banyan tree she died beneath. Every few generations, a girl was born to carry on the gatekeeping, unwillingly. And now, Ifunanya was the last one. The others had failed. Some went mad. Others simply vanished. The gates don't just need you to see. They need you to choose, Nokaik rasped. You can either close them permanently, and be trapped as their keeper, or open them, and let everything in. two choices. Neither safe. Either she sacrifices herself to keep the gates shut forever, becoming one with the land like Adebi. Or she opens them, dooming the village but freeing herself from the visions forever. She had until the next blood moon, just 3 nights away. Night 1, the test of water. Ifunanya dreamed of a lake with no bottom, its surface calm but black as ink. Standing on it was a child with backwards feet, a symbol of the spirit world. If you open the gate, it said, your pain ends. You will be normal. Loved. She stepped forward and saw her mother's face in the water, whispering, don't listen. The lake boiled. Ifunanya awoke vomiting river water. Night 2, the test of fire. She sat by the banyan tree, staring into its twisted roots, when a wind rose, bringing with it burnt petals. Suddenly, the tree ignited, flames reaching the heavens. Inside the fire, she saw visions, Mama Ikin screaming, bound in roots. Ifunanya reached in without hesitation, and her arm lit up, but she pulled a fragment of cloth from the fire. It was her grandmother's wrapper, unburnt. She passed. The spirits roared in anger across the night. Final night, the gate must choose. The blood moon rose again. A crowd of villagers had gathered, though no one spoke. They knew. They felt the pull in their bones. Ifunanya stood in the clearing, flanked by the well and the banyan tree, the two ancient gates, pulsing like heartbeats. A figure emerged from the shadows, her own reflection, now fully embodied. It smiled, cruel and empty. You are tired? Let go. Let me hold it now. The doppelganger offered her hand. In her other hand, Ifunanya held the cloth of Mama Ikin, a symbol of what could still be saved. She closed her eyes. And she stepped forward, not to the spirit, but to the banyan tree. She began chanting, not the words from her visions, but her grandmother's lullaby. When the wind calls your name, and the roots find your flame, hold your breath, little dove. Choose the pain, not the love. The banyan tree began to crack, oozing black sap. The well behind her bubbled, hissing like a viper. Suddenly, the spirit screamed. If you shut us out, you shut her in. Ifunanya's hands glowed red, her body lifting inches off the ground. Her nose, eyes, and ears bled as she forced both palms into the base of the tree. The tree split, exposing a tunnel of black nothingness. She spoke her final choice. I will close the gate. I will be its keeper. The spirits howled. Her body was yanked inward, sucked into the void. Her mouth opened in a final scream, but she smiled, because in the wind behind her, she heard a soft voice whisper. I'm proud of you, child. Aduk returned to normal in the months that followed. Mirrors became just glass. The river flowed clear. Children slept peacefully again. The banyan tree was now hollow and cold, dead. But at night, if you stood quietly at its roots, you might hear a girl humming a lullaby. And if you whispered your question to the bark, sometimes, just sometimes, the tree would whisper back. Thanks for watching. Please never forget to subscribe and share.